Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the virtual event, Qatar Hybrid and Data Center Summit 2021, Day 2. And the topic of today's session is driving business innovation while reducing cost, improving productivity with agility and scalability in the next normal, organized by the Rendezvous experts in partnership with Attivo Networks, Nutanix, Software AG, Cloudar, PwC, and our strategic partner, Microsoft. My name is Shalini Francis, and I'll be your host for today's session. Dear panelists, Qatar Hybrid and Data Center Summit is designed for open networking, innovations, enabling collaborative development across enterprises, educators, and service providers to shape the future of hybrid cloud computing and futuristic data centers in Qatar and GCC. The event gathers top technologists from leading organizations and hybrid cloud communities in a unique virtual setting to further the education and advancements of hybrid cloud computing and data centers. Now, talking about today's power-packed agenda, first up, we have a panel discussion with some of the brightest minds and most experienced, well-known personalities of the industries, discussing cybersecurity landscape, followed by a keynote presentation on intelligent manufacturing use cases, post which we have another insightful presentation on AWS hybrid cloud. And at last, dear participants, we have aligned a panel discussion on services that matter with complete e-services end-to-end online, in which we have some of the top leaders from cross countries who would be sharing their knowledge. Now, a few pointers to make the most of the session, dear participants. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A section where all the questions will be answered. If for any reason you get locked out during the session, please follow the same procedure to join back in. Don't forget to visit our partner booths and engage with them in the lounge area as well. Now let's start the day with our first panel discussion on the topic addressing cybersecurity landscape with partnership between industries, business leaders, regulators, and policymakers. Mr. Abdul Salam Knio, Managing Partner, ICT Qatar, is the respected moderator, and the panelists are Dr. Erdal, Ozkaya, Cybersecurity Advisor and Head of Information Security, Standard Chartered Bank. Then we have Mr. Ray Kafity, Vice President, Middle East, Turkey, and Africa of Attivo Networks. And then we have Tarek Terk, Head of Infrastructure and Communication, Ministry of Public Health. Then we also have Dr. Yask Sharma, CISO of Indian Oil Corporation Limited. And last but not the least, we have Mr. Tawfiq Lawati, Senior Advisor to Chief Commercial Officer, Omantel. Now over to you, Abdul. You have 35 minutes for the session.
Thank you very much, and welcome to all the attendees, and special welcome to the dear panelists. Today, the subject is very dear and important to every one of us, especially being in the technology business. Now, we have been witnessing a lot of changes in the industry for many years, but especially the last few years, with the increased dependency on digital technologies and business models. Cybersecurity continues to be an increasing challenge, risking business assets. So policymakers, regulators, and technology providers are all working towards addressing those challenges from all aspects: technology, legal, political, process, and people. So World Economic Forum have identified top 5 challenges for cybersecurity in 2021. And those challenges are more complex cybersecurity challenges due to the complex technologies and digital adoption, fragmented and complex regulations because of multi-party involvement, dependence on other parties, again, related to ecosystem, business ecosystem, and multi-party engagement and multi-systems and multi-technologies engaged to provide a service. And the lack of cybersecurity expertise, people or organizations should continue to invest in expertise in order to keep. This is part of the, or not even less important than technology investment. So investing in people and skills is as important as technology investment, as well as the difficulty to track cyber criminals. The reason why criminals are today not limited to geography, and they don't follow a certain jurisdiction, and they don't, they have very less, unfortunately, in the world, less accountability and rules and regulations to penalize those attackers. So this leaves the area for a big challenge, and in different industries. For that, I will be happy to moderate the discussion today about the cybersecurity in different industries. We have the healthcare industry. We will be talking to Mr. Terk. We have the banking and finance, Dr. Erdal, and we have the oil and gas, Dr. Yask, and for the telecom, Mr. Tawfiq Lawati, and finally for the cybersecurity technology providers, Attivo, Mr. Kafity. So I will go with that order if you don't mind, and I will go for the first question to Mr. Tarek. Tarek, the recent rise in cybersecurity breaches in healthcare organizations has put patient privacy at a higher risk of being exposed. Despite this threat and additional danger posed by such incidents to patient safety, as well as operational and financial threats to the healthcare organizations, very few studies have systematically examined the cybersecurity threats in healthcare. I would like to hear from you if you can shed light on the role of healthcare organizations and policymakers in better understanding and addressing the complexity of the issue of cybersecurity in relation to healthcare.
Good morning, Abdul Salam. Good morning, panelists. Just one clarification between a bracket. I'll be participating in my personal capacity, but of course I'll be sharing my experience and background and make whatever I'm saying relevant to what you are saying. All the challenges you have said are highly valid, and those five main pillars. But during my journey in cybersecurity and IT world, of course, cybersecurity has to be holistic, and you need to address it, as you mentioned, to have the security baseline. Then you need to take care of the governance, risk, compliance, and then adapt the technology end to end holistically. But through my experience in, let's say, healthcare sector or financial sector or construction, trading, automotive, etc. There is a saying, and I saw that the main factor that we need to work on is people. Okay, though you mentioned people, process, and technology, here I want to emphasize on people. There is one saying which is I disagree on strongly, which is the user is the weakest part of the chain, which is, I believe, the user himself should transform him to a human defense. And the last 2 years of my life, I conducted cybersecurity training, part of a cybersecurity program, in order to make user aware of cybersecurity threats on the personal level and professional level, in order to make it personalized training and transform them eventually as a human defense, not a weak part of the chain, let's say. Okay, so transforming them to a human defense based on a personal experience, based on the drafted material, which is personalized to the user and covering the interests of the organization. I experienced more reporting, that's what we need, right? So we saw the users participating more, engaging more, reaching us as a cybersecurity or SOC operation center more. I saw the reporting of the incidents was much higher over the phone, over the email, whatever channel our organization was providing. And most important, the material. The material doesn't have to be dull and just full of text. It has to be infographical. It has to be fun. It has to be. We have to have like participation, maybe some games related to the topic. And at the same time, you need to make sure that you are getting the interest of the attendance or the crowd all the time. So the material has to be crafted that way. If you are losing them at some point, means either the instructor is not delivering properly or the material is not interesting to them. Most important is to make it interested to them and make them feel that they need to be part of this, and it's for their own benefit and the organization benefit in parallel.
I totally agree with you that people factor is or the human factor is very critical and maybe the most important. That's why we are expecting policymakers and the regulators to come up with a set of procedures to limit those either the lack of human attention or to manage this on an ongoing basis, because human development has in the cybersecurity space, especially that today we have modern technologies used by the hackers and attackers, such as artificial intelligence. So organizations cannot just stand still and just struggle with their internal processes. So if we are to risk the patient's safety, then we have to get this done. And I'm sure that there are enough procedures in place, but I agree with you that this should be continuously boosted and given the right attention in order to bridge this potential gap. Thank you, Tarek. Thank you. Your input was appreciated. And let me go to another industry, which is the BFSI, and ask a question to Dr. Erdal. Dr. Erdal, digital financial services, DFS, hold great promise as a means to enable financial inclusion and thus help improve people's lives. However, cybercrime has become a key concern in developing and emerging countries' financial markets and is threatening to hinder global advances in building more inclusive financial sectors. I would also like you, if possible, to shed light on fintech impact in the financial sector from a cybersecurity perspective. So can you please tell us about those challenges in the GCC, hopefully, or in the Middle East, and what financial institutions and regulators are doing to mitigate such risk? Dr. Erdal?
Sorry, I had technical difficulties. Now I just joined again.
Yes.
I missed
Dr.
what
Erdal,
you
do you hear
said.
me?
I just joined. I'm sorry for that.
No problem, no problem. We reached your question actually. I will repeat my
Please.
question.
Apologies, everybody.
No problem, no problem. Most welcome. So we have a question for you on the banking and finance industry. So we are saying that digital financial services, DFS, hold great promise as a means to enable financial inclusion and thus help improve people's lives. However, cybercrime has become a key concern in developing and emerging countries' financial markets and is threatening to hinder global advances in building more inclusive financial sectors. I would like also to hear from you if you have that exposure on the impact of cybersecurity in the cryptocurrency space or in the fintech, probably, in addition to what I mentioned. So please tell us what is going on from your point of view in the financial sector in relation to mitigating the risk known in the BFSI sector.
Great question. Apologies again for the technical glitch, but great man. Okay, now put financial sector aside. Tell me a sector which is not these days not getting affected by cybercrime. Yes. Banks, they're the honeypot at the moment, where the money is there much easier. I'm pretty sure all of you will remember what happened in 2015 Carbon Act. 100 banks were targeted, more than $1 billion physical money was stolen out. Or just recently, a couple of banks in Africa were hacked. So unfortunately, the banks are a bit higher target, but saying that, there is two types of organizations. One, they know they've been hacked. Two, they don't. So what I'm saying is, this is also applies to us or to everybody. What I'm saying is, we all have to assume that we can breach any second. We have to build a proper cybersecurity strategy, which builds the CIA. Of course, I'm not talking about the Central Intelligence Agency. I'm talking about confidentiality, integrity, and availability. For example, Abdul, I'm pretty sure you have some money in a bank. Do you mind sharing how much? Probably you're not going to share. Why? It's confidential.
40 million. Okay.
Ray laughed. I guess, Ray, oh, is this your breach at the back?
No, I
Looks like I thought.
I give you a sample of what I have. Yeah.
Okay, sample. Okay, sample. Let's say that sample is $10,000.
Yes.
If you wake up one morning and you see this $100,000, I'm pretty sure you'll be happy. But what is if you see this as a minus $5,000? Forget about $100,000. You will not be happy because it's not available. It's not, hey, that's wrong. Then let's say, integrity is also important. Let's go to availability. For financial sector, you asked. All right, let's say you want to buy a car or house. You go use your credit card or your bank check to pay, but they say it's denied. Like, hold on, I have money. What do you mean it's denied? Then you're going to call the bank. Sorry, it's not available because we are hacked. Is this acceptable for you? Do you care? Of course not. So back to what you said, it's really important to do this. The other thing is, for example, data. Look, for us, your money is data. Your PII is data. For when I say us, I'm not talking about Standard Chartered. I'm talking about financial sector. For Microsoft, data is the tools which they provide us. For other companies, at the end, we all produce data, and it's our job to protect it. I always say this, look, when we drive, we always forget that we are pedestrians ourselves. When we see people crossing the street, sometimes we get angry, quick, but we forget as soon as we park the car, we're going to get down and we're going to be pedestrian ourselves. Same applies to cybersecurity. We have to think that we can be getting victim anytime. As long as we can control, if, for example, Abdul, if I'm going to hit you right now, what will you do? You will try to protect yourself, right? So why not build a protection mechanism before the incidents happen? And what I see in the organizations, unfortunately, if you ask me, the first word was owned by James Comey, the ex-FBI director. There's two types of organizations. They know they've been hacked and they don't. My version of this is there's two types of organizations. One, they invest in the right talent and right cybersecurity strategy and protect the environment before any incident. Two, their organizations, they do favors and they only invest after. So why not be the first one? Because hack is gonna be around you anytime. So why not, if I'm gonna enter your house and you cannot afford a security guard, you will at least build an alarm system, you will change the locks, you will buy a dog maybe, you will try to make my job harder. None of this will stop me from entering in, right? Same applies to cybersecurity. Now, to cryptocurrency, Bitcoin at the moment is quite high. Like just 2 days ago, I received a call from a CEO, said, Erdal, an ex-customer, Erdal, CEO, he doesn't really too much about currency. I'm like, everything is encrypted in our organization. The guy is asking just for 6 Bitcoin, should I pay? I'm like, do you know how much a Bitcoin costs? My first question before, asking how was the attack vector and everything. He said, no, I'm like, it's like $50,000 to $60,000, depending on Elon Musk. You know, maybe he tweeted now and it went back to 100,000. Remember what he did? So to go back, I know I don't have unlimited time. Cryptocurrency is the future. At the moment, lots of banks started to offer this as well via via different technologies. Our bank, for example, Standard Chartered has announced this as well. Chinese government has announced very recently they're going to build their own cryptocurrency. This is also the future. Is it easier to hack? I don't think so. Why? Because look at the hackers. If they hack you, they use cryptocurrency to take it because it's hard to track. Whatever you do with the bank is taxable, right? You cannot hide it from the bank, from the government, because they will easily request it. It's taxable. That's why some people like to do cash business. So cryptocurrency is at the moment like the cash business. I believe it's going to be the future. It has the good side and the bad side, but it's like the blockchain technology. You know, everybody talks about it. It's great. It's good, but don't forget, it's only good with the right vendors, with the right providers, and with the right knowledge.
I agree with you, Dr. Erdal. Thank you very much for your input on that subject. I'm sure that the financial sector and cybersecurity is a continuously important subject, and there are a lot to talk. I'm sure that with this limited time, we just wanted to get some grip from you on what's the mindset today in that industry. Thank you very much. And I'll move on to the second industry, which is the oil and gas, with Dr. Yask Sharma. Dr. Yask, cybersecurity is a top priority for the natural gas and oil industry. As the owners and operators of some of the nation's most critical infrastructure, industry companies take seriously the protection of industrial control systems, ICS, and operational technology, OT. The digital monitoring and the controls of physical assets and prevention of energy disruptions that can impact national security and public safety. While industry companies are also responsible for prioritizing the protection of information technology, please tell us about the readiness level and steps taken in the region to address this challenge. We understand that there is a kind of a conversion between the OT and the IT to enable control systems to become smart and take more data-driven and probably predictive decisions. So we would like to hear from you from the context of cybersecurity. How do you perceive this going on in the oil and gas?
Right. Thank you, Abdul, and good day to all the attendees. First, a small and a quick disclaimer. I am here in my personal capacity, so any views that I share might not be necessarily subscribed by my organization. Now, coming to the question, it's a very pertinent question, and we have been talking about the security in the OT domain for some time now. In fact, since 2010, when the first attack really surfaced and people started waking up to this reality. One fundamental thing that we have to understand when it comes to OT security, like the IT security, there is one very important aspect to OT security is the governance part. There are two parts to security whenever we talk about it. One is the technical part, and the other, more important, is the governance part. Once we get the governance right, it would lead to a lot of success in the area that we are operating in. And it is not just limited to security. There are so many other domains also. So now what is important to understand in the OT environment, you talked about ICS and all, which is a part of it. See, there has been a talk of the convergence happening in the IT and OT. One aspect that we need to know is that, till now, OT and IT domains were kind of operating as a mutually exclusive departments or domain. The ITs were not talking to the OTs, although we talk about a lot of convergence happening, but that is happening at the technical layer. There is a firewall that has been put between IT and OT. However, is the convergence happening at the administrative layer, the governance layer? Are we clear as to who is responsible, who is accountable? So I think the first step in what a lot of organizations across the globe have realized is that to create a team which is more like a interface between the IT and the OT team. That is the first step towards giving the security. We call it a purple team, which is a mix of both the technical and the managerial part. To look at the challenges that are being faced in the OT and then to deal them accordingly. one bigger challenge, but in fact, the biggest challenge as compared to the IT environment in OT is the dependence on the vendors. It is not as much pronounced in the IT sector as it is in the OT sector. Therefore, there are actually three entities involved when it comes to security in an OT environment. One, obviously, the organization that is there, to the vendors who are there, and obviously the third entity is the attacker. I need to know what my attackers are doing. I need to know what my vendors, how they are preparing, and I obviously the owner of the assets have to perform it. So that is before we actually begin our journey on the OT security, we need to onboard the OT vendors. We need to onboard the team, the right mix of IT and OT speaking teams, and we also need to know the adversaries. Now, why I say that we need to know the adversaries, especially in the OT, cyber attacks are not by generation of force. They are essentially the attacks which are exploiting the vulnerabilities of any organization, more so in a critical environment, because the success of any attack is dependent on the availability of time, skill, and money. Nation states have an abundance of time, skill, and money. So therefore, there is a very formidable adversary that is attacking you. Therefore, the kind of response that one has to look at has to be in line with what the attackers are doing. Long story short, the journey has started. Realization has happened. How companies are preparing is by having the right administrative team, by also having the right technical teams and technical teams and tools. I mean, it's less of a tools thing. I think it's 70 to 80% of IT tools only that are being used. But I think how they are being used in that environment, what is the objective that is being met, that is what the preparation. I'm sorry, I'm just rushing it because of the lack of time. But I hope that I have been able to answer.
You did very well. Thank you, Dr. Yask. So yes, as you rightly said, the OT cybersecurity is phenomenal and very fundamental to oil and gas and any industrial operation actually, because this kind of operation network is exposed. When it's cyber exposed, then it will impact the actual production of the business, whether it's an oil and gas or electricity grid or a similar environment. So I'm glad to see that oil and gas companies are taking serious measures and they realize the importance of OT cybersecurity into their infrastructure. Thank you again, Dr. Yask. And I'll move on to another industry, which is the telecom industry, if you allow me. For the telecom, I would like to have Mr. Tawfiq Lawati from the Deir Oman country. Mr. Tawfiq, I would like to ask you a question. And we know that the telecom or telco business is undergoing a major probably change in the industry, in the way they operate and the type of services they offer and how to leverage on the infrastructure that has been built over the years, but to stay modern and relevant to the customers. So telcos across the globe are trying to embark on a transformative journey by investing in their digital infrastructure and adopting a business model which focuses on customer experience and technology dominance.
Correct.
Cloud, 5G, and Internet of Things, top of the list, and so on. So can you please tell us some of the best practices that telcos are adopting to align their cybersecurity strategy to enable this transformation?
Sure. First of all, thank you for hosting me today into this seminar. I'm glad to be part of this team of panelists and by being here with you. It's just like my colleagues emphasized, my participant also here is on the personal capacity at them today. One thing I would like to start with is to make clear to panelists and attendees is that now I'm not a security expert. So my opinion in telecom or on the security would be from the perspective of a business side, from the business owner and a commercial side, to explain you how do we foresee this security issue. Now, like rightfully you mentioned, security is an important aspect of the business that we do in telecom. And Now with COVID and everybody working from home, it has become more and more important for us to invest in our security infrastructure, and in not only looking out of the security for external customers, but even internal customers. Sorry, not internal customers only, but also external customers. So the way we sort of try to address this risk and security issues are from the two perspectives. And that is what we are trying to evolve with. One is related to technology. So that requires what advanced technologies are there in the telecom or in any other industry for that matter. I mean, recently I came across a concept of security, which was related to adding some, how do you encrypt the data when it's transferred from one person to another person over the cloud or over the email? It basically, they do something called like a split and spread. So they split the data into parts. They add noise to data. So this kind of, what I'm trying to say is that there is a regular investment in technology when it comes down to the security. So there is this part of this aspect of investing in technologies is ongoing. We always come up with new things and new way of doing it. Now with an NFT that is picking up as becoming a hot topic. And there's another issue of ensuring those non-fungible assets are also securely kept and does not get copied. But one important aspect I would like to also touch on is the non-technical side of security. When it comes to the commercial people, and when it comes to the people who are not expert in the security matter, and how does measures that we keep in place impact their work, impact their performance. And that one thing we started addressing it and very effectively is creating an awareness. It's creating a way of communicating that the non-technical experts is able to understand the information that has been addressed. For example, if you want to embark on a project, this project needs to be assessed very carefully from the security department or security section. And the end user generally feels this is another step into the project which delays implementation of the project, which might probably delay the launch of the project, and they would find this is an extra obstacle. So by creating this kind of an awareness and explanation and educating non-technical and non-security expert to understand the security issues helped a lot, both the business and the security experts, to implement this. This is one of the important things we have been focusing on. Another important thing is that we're trying to address the lack of agreement between or SLAs or KPIs between the end user and the security experts. Some things like RTO, recovery time objective, what are the timeline, or what is the acceptable level of risk, what is and how this impact of the risk, impact of the fraud, impact of the issue is not only measured financially now, but is also measured customer-wise, is measured experience-wise, it's measured brand-wise. So we try to correlate this impact of security issues in commercial. We try to impact it, how it impacts the brand, how it impacts the customer base, and so forth. So I was hoping that I can focus a bit more on these aspects of the security issues.
Yes, thank you very much, Tawfiq. Mr. Tawfiq, you have pointed out two important things: the impact of cybersecurity on the commercial impact, which is known and understood, and as you mentioned rightly, the common denominator between what you said and the other industries is the knowledge and people and awareness.
Yes.
And
yes.
The other point which you mentioned is the non-tangible damage, which could be a brand or it could be a reputation impact, and that's equally important. Sometimes is even more harmful than having a commercial loss.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you very much for this. For the interest of time, I have to move to the other panelists.
Sure,
but,
sure. Thank you very much.
I would love to take this further with you, maybe offline or other
Sure.
opportunities. Thank you for your participation.
Thank you. Welcome.
Now I will be moving to the person who will make things happen of all what we mentioned about from the technology perspective. As a technology vendor, Attivo has been committed fully for continuously committed to modern technologies and solutions to help those industries bridge those gaps that we just spoke about. So Mr. Kafity is the VP of Attivo. I would be happy to ask you questions. Now, despite the massive investments in cybersecurity prevention, such as firewalls, intrusion detection and prevention, SIEM, and other solutions, cyber attacks and breaches are still on the rise. So, I mean, I have two questions for you. One, what do you contribute the reason for this? Why is this? And the other one is how much threat intelligence information play in securing IT assets in a multi-cloud environment? I'd like you to shed light on that point. So please try to be as straight to the point as possible so that we don't exceed the time. Thank you.
Good morning, Abdul Salam. Good morning, panelists and delegates. I will try to summarize a 2-hour presentation in 3.5 minutes as much as I can. So a very important question. The reason why cyber attacks are still on the rise is basically for 2 reasons. One, the attackers and the cyber criminals are using advanced techniques and advanced attack methodologies to enter your business, whether your business is the network or the cloud or DR or IoT or industrial control system. But the cyber criminal side of the business is gaining together and using advanced tools like social engineering, like artificial intelligence, like machine language, machine learning, to be able to penetrate your perimeter security solutions. And therefore, you still see the rise in cyber attacks. Not only that, once the attacker is successful in penetrating your organization's network or data center or cloud infrastructure, the challenge of the industry nowadays is the attacker is allowed to stay for a long time inside your network before any tools are able to detect their presence. This is in the industry called dwell time. Dwell time is the amount of time a cyber criminal stays in the organization, and it's averaging around 6 months. Could you imagine allowing a thief to come into your house for 6 months before you are alerted to it? Absolutely not. Abdul, you talked about digital transformation yesterday. Organizations going through digital transformation cannot do that without making sure that that transition is as safe as possible. Yeah. Therefore, there is a shift now of focus from prevention tools to detection and response. Organizations have to equip themselves with advanced detection and response techniques inside of the network that enable them to alert and feel the movement of a cyber criminal in their environment. Cyber deception has gained tremendous track in this field because cyber deception lays cyber traps inside of the network where the attacker is going to trip on the cyber track, and slowly you can mitigate that attack and prevent him from progressing further. That comes to me, brings me to the second question, which is threat intel. There are 2 types of threat intelligence. There is an external threat intelligence feed that organization subscribe to, and this is good and sometimes handy because it gives you an idea of what threat actors in the world, in the internet are doing. But sometimes that external threat intelligence might not be relevant to your organization. Cyber deception, because it engages with the attacker inside of your network and gathers all of his tools, tactics, and procedures, provide you an internal threat intelligence feed of the attack that is happening in your network currently dynamically real time. So threat intel is of paramount importance, whether it is external threat intel or now people are moving to gather their own internal threat intel to be able to understand your adversary. You cannot attack an adversary unless you understand what's his motives, what is he going after, and what tools is he using. Cyber deception has proven to be the best tool in order to facilitate those features for you.
Thank you very much, Ray, for this insightful information. And I know you for a long time, and I know how much you are engaged in not only in the core technologies, but also in the business impact of those technologies, because that's what matters for the investors and business owners. Unfortunately, cybersecurity imposes a risk on all industries. But if done well, I can conclude from all what you said today, it creates a confidence. So let's be positive in looking at cybersecurity than just scaring everybody from cybersecurity. The reason of highlighting the risks is to take the right measures, from regulation to policy making and to people enablement and technology adoption. But at the end of the day, if you know what you are doing and you always continuously keep an eye on the threats and how you cover them, then you create a business confidence instead of a business risk. And then you can propagate this in the actual business and consistency and sustainability of your business moving forward. Thank you very much again, all the dear panelists, respective panelists, and thank you for your participation today. And thanks for the organizer also. And I pass on to you the microphone, unless you have questions. If anybody have questions, we are ready to address them with the respected panelists.
Well, as of now, we don't have any questions, Abdul. However, if we receive any questions, I will keep you posted via email. Sure. Is that fine?
Yes, of course, of course.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much again, and good luck in your day moving forward with your event.
Thank you.
Okay, see you. Bye-bye.